heartache in Madrid for Arsenal and Arsene Wenger. Boys, do you think he gave it a good go?
You have to say yes on the evidence of the game. I think they gave it a good go, as good as what they can produce at the moment. I think they're up against a very strong team at home, whose home record is one of the best in Europe. And they had opportunities, and the game was alive, I think. I think that's the key point. The game was alive for the majority of it. Even though they conceded a goal, they were still in there and pressing towards the end. So I don't think it's a disastrous performance by any means.
Would the frustrating thing, though, Steve, be it's yet another poor goal to concede?
I was just about to say then, I think that performance there just sums up Arsenal to a T. You know, there's quality in there. They've huffed and puffed, they've knocked on the door, they've not scored. But it's the defensive frailties and the defensive fundamentals that have, again, let them down at the vital stage of the season. That
bit of detail, isn't it? We were screaming at the TV. The moment you saw Costa get in the wrong side, you knew he had to. Bellerin had to have switched off. To not, as a fullback, when the ball's over the far side of the pitch, to have just dropped inside just to fill that hole. It's just that instinct, isn't it?
But it's leadership, isn't it? I mean, it's the timing of the goal. I mean, that's when, I mean, it's just before half-time. You know, as a centre-half, that time, when you look at the clock, you're away from home, big, obviously, European night, get in, you know, tuck the full-backs in, get the midfield on there, let's see it out till half-time. You just don't see that from Arsenal.
But when it happens so often, is it not, maybe not just intuition, is it also lack of coaching?
Absolutely. It's a cultural thing, isn't it? It's having the players, you know, recruiting the players, the type of mentality that are willing to make those sacrifices in going forwards at times, to just do your job for the next 2 minutes and go in at 0-0. Which they deserved in the first half, I felt. And it was such a letdown that something as basic as that, as a fullback not just tucking inside, is what's cost them.
Even though they gave it a go tonight, did their best chance disappear at the Emirates for you?
Yes. And again, it's the same story, isn't it? You know, defensive frailties, basic fundamentals, clear your lines, timings of the goal. You could say that the tie was gone then. Again, you know, tonight they've showed their qualities in spells, but not really produced on the night.
I mean, in many ways, it's the end of an era anyway with Arsene Wenger, but the fact during his incredible reign, no European trophy. Is that a serious blot on his copybook, bearing in mind what he was managed to achieve at domestic level with the Gunners?
It will be for him. Excuse me, for sure. It will be for him. He'll be thoroughly disappointed with that. Somebody that is so well versed on European football as well, and been chasing that European trophy for so long, I think he'll be thoroughly disappointed. And, you know, for me, tonight, I just think they were never going to... You know, even though they played so well, that first leg, you just couldn't see them winning that tie.
You were never convinced, were you, watching the game?
No. No, not at all. I wasn't convinced that they could go and win. I think they gave a good account of themselves, and I think the game was alive, as we said. But Atletico always seemed to have those chances, didn't they? Costa was probing.
Yeah, I think on the whole, when you look at Arsenal and obviously Arsene, the recent history, I think his love for the club has been blind, has been channeled. I think his passion for it has been so much that instead of sometimes taking a back step and looking at it from the bigger picture, saying it's just not working out, he's always wanted to stay there, I think, to get that European glory that he so badly wanted. And he didn't want, I think, another manager to come in, maybe the season after or whenever he left, and win that. I think that would have gone... That would have been terrible for him.
I mean, Arsene Wenger says they're only 2 or 3 players away from having a team that can challenge for top honours, including Europe. Do you think he's being a little optimistic there?
I think there's a massive difference now, just in the Premier League alone. I think you look at, obviously you work out from the top, you look at Man City now, Man United, Spurs, Liverpool, I think they're all light years in front of Arsenal. I think Arsenal's going to come into a real transition time now. I think they need a real fresh start, fresh impetus, and whether that's going to be from a manager that's, as we've seen here, Simeone's, you know, Ancelotti's, Allegri's, people like that, or someone new, someone under the radar that's just going to come in and wants the lads to buy into that philosophy.
I mean, 2 or 3 players, he must just be talking about the back 4. I mean, you can see so many different areas that need strengthening, and that especially for me, central defence, goalkeeper, there's 3 players.
Well, is it more than that in the defence? Is there a case for changing the whole 5?
Yeah, well, absolutely. But if you just think that you know, that nucleus, the 2 centre-backs, 2 centre-back partnership and a goalkeeper, there's 3 players that you need to, for me, that they need instantly. Koscielny's, you know, his body, I think he's done well at times for Arsenal, but his body's now starting to struggle. Unfortunately, it went off tonight. Hopefully, it's not a serious injury for him, but...
Why didn't it happen for Arsenal, not just tonight, but overall in Europe? Was it because tactically he never really changed, Arsene Wenger? He played the same way domestically as he did in Europe. Why didn't it happen? I mean, three finals is more than respectable, but not to have won a European trophy.
I mean, especially of late, I think their big players never turned up on the big occasions. You know, when they should do. We're talking world-class players here that can, you know, Ozils and people like that can unlock defences, you know, at ease at times. They've not come to the forefront. In previous times, I think it's luck. You know, look at, especially in Europe as well, it's not always the best team that wins. You need a bit of luck that goes through throughout that competition, and maybe they've, you know, had a bit of that as well. But on the whole, they've always just fallen short.
No, not just with the manager's position, but is this, do you think, Matt, a turning point, a watershed moment for the club?
Absolutely. You know, whenever there's a reign that ends of 20 years plus, it's a huge turning point for the club, and they have to get it right. You know, we were talking earlier, and you almost feel like when you've had something like that that's been the same for so long, it's always going to go backwards before it can go forwards. It can't. Nobody can take over and continue to take the club into a better place.
I mean, they're not going to be in the Champions League next season, so how long do you think it's going to take before they can really get back?
I think that's very difficult to say. Ask City that one for a minute.
It is. You think on that one and have a glass of water.
OK, yeah, go for it.
I think it needs someone that's going to go in there, and the players have to buy in to that philosophy straight away. You know, we're used to seeing an Arsenal team dynamic, fluent, playing good football, and it needs to get back to that. On top of that, it needs to get that winning mentality that it had back. I mean, when we was there, I mean, I know we're going back a few years ago, but that seems to have just disappeared out the door. And when the going gets tough, there's not enough that want to roll this.
You're quite right. It was many years ago, as you can see there.
Can we get rid of that?
Yeah, we can replace that. Don't worry. We've got more.
Hunger strike. That's happened there.
Oh, no, please.
Whose shirt were you wearing then?
That was the fit, wasn't it? It was just one size fits all. You didn't get asked.
But you were both there as young men at the same time as Arsene Wenger. Could you have seen him to be there as long as he has been, and also you saw the start of something building? It happens, you know, things change, things move on. But in a way, is it tinged with sadness, the way that it's fallen away? It hasn't finished on a real high note.
I think it is sad, and you say when I was there, could I see him being there this long? Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he was so confident, and you know, everything was going so well. He inherited an amazing backbone nucleus to the team, didn't he? And it had all those qualities that we just mentioned. And I think in recruiting that, that's been slowly diluted over time. And I think that's the main problem for Arsenal. It's just been diluted. That element that all those players had has gone.
Yeah. I think he ticked all the boxes, first of all, on the field, with what he'd done. He revolutionised. We've seen many pros now that have said he revolutionised their careers, and what started with the English culture and what he brought in, but off the field as well, what he'd done for the football club and where he's taken it is you know, we took it to another level with obviously the stadium that they bought. Who was to know then that obviously Chelsea was going to come into the money, and City was going to come into money? You know, no one see that then. If that wouldn't have happened,
nobody could have predicted that.
No,
could
of
they?
course not. So there's been a few downfalls as well that obviously was out of his control. But on the whole, it just seems to have whimpered down, and the players have. It's
just fallen away, hasn't it?
Which is sad. He deserves more. I mean, he's Arsenal's probably great.
I think what gets harder is to find those players from nowhere. When you look at the success, the most successful players that he's almost brought into that club, Anelka, Vieira, Henry, bought them for nothing. You know, Adebayor took for nothing. Kolo Touré. The list is endless, and he was a master at it, wasn't it? And I think as football's evolved and it's become bigger business, I think it gets harder and harder. He had a real eye for that, didn't he? And that was his star asset in the first decade of his reign at that club.
I think that was probably the start of the decline as well, because he carried on trying to do that, trying to get the jewel that
unearth those nuggets.
Wasn't really there, whilst the others were just, you know, they were just gazumping and just going, we're going to go to the top and get the best.
And then whenever it came to spending, maybe didn't quite get that one right, you know, but really go the big money buys and then really come to the club and take off.
Fondest memory of Arsene Wenger for you?
A fondest memory of him would be my first game for Arsenal at Watford in a pre-season friendly. And I slipped over and I pictured him as this European footballing manager, technique, tactical. You know, he had the professor look. And he walked up to me after the game and said, a centre-back always wears studs. It was pre-season, the pitch was rock hard, and that was his first piece of advice to me, and I would never picture that. I'd picture maybe my youth team manager at Luton saying that, but that was his main piece of advice, which kind of showed me he wasn't all about that. He did have an idea of what that other element was, and I looked, Martin Keown was wearing studs, Tony Adams was wearing studs. I had a pair of moulded boots on, and he wasn't happy with it, and that was the first message he wanted to give me.
Detail as well.
Yeah.
For you?
Yeah. Obviously, when he first came in, I was just sort of finishing my YTS and going to first year pro, and he just seemed to give all the youngsters confidence. You know, he'd come over, watch training, and not just watch it just to be there, but watch it with detail. And he'd always encourage. The encouragement that he had: believe in yourself, believe in your ability. If you do well here and you come over, you know, make sure you perform. If you don't stay and you go back and you come back again, learn from your mistakes. So, it was, you know, you see a lot of players now talk about him as a father figure, and you can see that. You know, you really can. So, he's done a lot for a lot of players' careers, and he'll be remembered fondly.
Even though there's obviously disappointment in the air, do you think he'll get the send-off he should against Burnley, his last game at the Emirates on Sunday?
I really hope so. I really hope so. I mean, there's never been somebody more to deserve that when you look at the overall. OK, we can look at the last few years.
It's the house that Arsene built, isn't it?
Absolutely. He had such an input to the stadium, the structure, the foundation of this football club now, the training ground. You know, it was revolutionary, and you're right, it is so in danger of the past few seasons just tainting what that is, and it's a shame that the timing of his exit and maybe identifying a different time couldn't have worked out better for him, but I'm sure everyone will go, and I really feel they'll give him the proper send-off that he deserves.
That's obviously off the pitch. I think on the pitch, it's ironic that they're playing Burnley.
Well, Burnley can go level with them on points.
So this is obviously the danger where is it set in stone that it's going to just... It's been on a slow decline for the last few years, and now it's just going to drop off the edge. And
Burnley's a tough game for them at the moment as well, with the way they play, you know, how to get at Arsenal, what do Arsenal not like. It's Burnley, isn't it, you know, at the moment?
Yeah.